Got it? Got it. All right. Recording in progress. Okay. Welcome to this weekly non-duality Zoom with Don Garland and me. Thank you for coming, everybody. Please keep your microphones muted until invited to speak. This is being shared live on YouTube, so by asking a question, you are giving consent. We encourage you to raise your hand virtually after the brief introductions by unmuting yourself and turning on your camera. Alternatively, you can write your questions in the chat on the YouTube live stream or in the Zoom. This is for entertainment purposes only. And with that, I will pass the mic to Dawn, please.
Hi, so yeah, introduction to non-duality. I'll give a short introduction. So it's the end of identifying with the person, the personality, the mind, body, organism. So it's the collapse of time, which is the historical self. So the identity as we know it when we're growing up, when we're living normal life, is we move through time and space in a world that's exterior to us. And so there's an inside and there's an outside, and that's what collapses. So it's seen that there's just life, life living us, if you like. So there's no agent, there's no ego in the sense there's no one doing any of this. This is just arising, and it's arising for no one. So there's nobody here, there's nobody there. And what that tends to do is it brings about a restoration of intimacy with life. So there's just the experience of unconditional love, which is restful. So it's coming back to where you are. It's peaceful. It's seeing the beauty that's inherent in everything, that's visual, that's beyond the ego. So it's beyond the mind. All of this seeing is beyond the mind, and it's known. So there's nothing actually happening here on one level. There's nothing happening. There's no time, there's no space. There's just, at the same time, there is whatever's arising. And so life goes on as before. It goes on for no one, and it's much nicer. It can come as a shock. So it can come as a shock, but a very peaceful, gentle shock. It's a shock with no, your cortisol levels will not go through the roof or anything like that. It's a groundedness. This is actually very grounded. It's very sane. So in a sense, there's no looking back. There's no looking forward. It's because there's no need to. It's just everything is here. Everything that's being sought is already the case. So it's life is fulfilled. It's what you've been seeking. It's home in a sense. And yeah, so, and that'll do for now. I'll pass over to Walter.
Okay. I just shared the Zoom link in the chat. If anyone wants to join from YouTube. Non-duality. What is it? Well, that's the question. What is non-duality? How do you give an intro to non-duality? Because it's not a thing. It refers to not two. It's not two. It's not one. Any attempt at speaking at it seems to fail, because no thing being everything, but no thing is not a thing. I hear people saying nothing, nothing, but yet there's so much beauty let's see, let's let somebody in. Variety, emotions, and thoughts, and just everything that makes up life. Is this no thing being everything? And there's no why, there's no meaning or purpose. There's no understanding of that. Like, how is that possible? Or why is that happening? There's no one apart from it to figure it out. It is that thought of why is this happening? Or how is this happening? Or isn't this amazing? Or doesn't this suck? It's all those things. The polarities. There's no one here experiencing that. What is experience? You know, what is sitting in a chair, speaking on Zoom, feeling feelings and sensations? There is no one to know what that is or why that is. I don't believe there's a creative intelligence behind it, a one universal mind creating it. There's a lot of beautiful expressions of this, you know, like God was lonely, so he created all these things from himself to entertain himself. But I imagine that's not the case either. So there's nothing to hold on to. Non-duality is really nothing. It's not saying anything. It's not giving you anything. There's nothing on offer. It doesn't help with anything. It's just already everything that appears. Everything that seems to be is this no thing appearing as what seems to be. And a lot of speakers get caught up in the words, I've noticed, because I've said the phrase like seeing non-duality, and then somebody will say, well, who sees non-duality? Well, there's no one here to see non-duality, but yet there was this apparent experience of a unicity or a lack of separation. It's been called a falling away of a me, or a sense of a separate self. I heard a guy talk about, Wayne Lickerman said, it's like describing the absence of a stone in your shoe. You know, you're walking around for years with a stone in your shoe, and then one day it's not there. So you're really describing an absence of a sense of separation, of a sense of me and other, me and separate objects. And the so-called seeing of non-duality is just this realization that that's never was the case. There never was a me and an other. There was always just this one apparent, beautiful, magnificent, mysterious outpouring that can never be understood. Even to say pointing at it, there's nothing pointing at something else. If I'm pointing, then the pointing is it. Everything is divine. One of my favorite sayings was, there is no God, there is only godliness. This is godliness expressing, trying to describe God. You know, God trying to speak about himself, or the mystery trying to talk about the mystery. It's every step. It's every apparent person. It's every apparent object. It's every thought. It's the breeze. It's the grass. It's the pizza. And so to say divinity, or some say the beloved, makes it sound special and something esoteric. But as I'm sure you've heard, the ordinary is the extraordinary. You can see the mystery imbued in a ordinary object just as much as a beautiful sky at night. There's nothing separate, more special. Everything is just, for the individual, is just perception and interpretation and preferences and wiring and conditioning. But we give everything all the meaning it has without a thought or an emotion or a idea or a concept. There's just pure beingness with no right or wrong, no duality. It's just this isness with no qualities, no attributes, until I assign them, till I start giving them, till I put labels on things. And then that's my world of experience, which is created by mind, by thought. But without that, nothing is. Nothing is independent apart from my thoughts about it. Nothing exists independently apart from mind. So with that, let's open it up for questions. Type them in the chat or just raise your hand and jump right in.
Walter.
Yes, Eligio.
Uh,
Is that you?
yes, it's me.
Oh, wow.
Let's see. Something came to mind this morning. The word meist, as in racist or ageist. A meist. A person that is into non-duality and thinks himself different or separate from non-dualist. Your thoughts? Or Don?
Me is different or separate from non-dualists. How so?
Meist. Let's see. Okay, meist. Belief that as a non-dualist, you're better than non-dualist.
I don't relate to that, so I don't know.
Okay.
Doesn't seem like non-duality. You think you're better than someone else because you speak of non-duality.
Oh, just having some fun there. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Don, any thoughts on Mias?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe somebody thinks that. Maybe they don't. Yeah, I don't know. It's slightly amusing.
Well, don't be shy. We have over 20 people watching this, so jump right in. Questions or comments?
Did he just make that up? No, like, was that real?
Yeah, I think you did.
Right, okay.
Can you elaborate anything else on that?
It was just to, it was actually just to yeah. I think I did good. It was to amuse you,
No, right, okay.
basically. uh, also because it's like belief
Mhm.
is like non-duality does not exist, but somehow it seems to me it attaches to a certain kind of belief or category. I've noticed that, like like radical non-dualist don't want to hear anything about no other non-duality because they're wrong. Those people are wrong,
Mhm.
and only the thing I'm into is right. You see what I mean? Sometimes it happens that way. Um,
Well, it's just
I've
life
noticed.
going on, isn't it? Like, I mean, why wouldn't they? So, but then it's just another person with a conditioned mind, with ideas, who doesn't have that. Just because you speak about non-duality, just because that's been seen. I mean, it just goes on, doesn't it? Where influence beliefs can arise, and a high, you know, like it can fall into the same trap, can't it? I mean, there's no one, or even though there's no one who's free from that. Absolutely not. I don't believe that there is. So why wouldn't there be? It's just another. It could become a dogma so easily, can't it? Just like the hints of it, and yeah, and a prohibition, almost like this. You know, you can't look at anything else. It's kind of like, why would you be interested if you're interested in anything else? Then it's not really. You're not really non-dual or like a purity thing. Like it can become like that. Like, but or seem like that on the surface. But then again, no one.
Can you all mute yourselves? Yeah, please. Jesus Christ. Yeah, can, I don't know where to find you guys to mute you. Can you, hi, can you mute yourself or do something? Because you guys are really loud. If you can't mute yourself,
I can't hear anyone. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I'm not hearing anything.
okay, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
I can.
Okay, sorry about that. I couldn't even find them in the thing because they called in a weird way. I don't know.
Oh,
All right. Are you back?
Mm.
Yes. Do you have a question? Okay. Oh, thank you. You have a lot of external noise. I can't really. Can you just hang up? Sorry. Thank you. Okay. We have questions in the. She's calling back. Hello? Hello, caller? Jenny? Hi, Jenny. Do you have a question? We're taking your questions for Don Garland today. Don Garland. Okay. There you go.
I didn't hear anything, Walter.
It's only coming through to me?
Yeah, it is. All of that. Yeah.
All that noise and shit?
All that noise and none here. Yeah.
Oh, you're just calling me?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Well, she said, is there a purpose to life? What do you think?
Is there a purpose? Well, that's unanswerable, isn't there? I mean, the seeing of this is beyond meaning and purpose, right? And the individual, that's something an individual creates or not, like purpose. I mean, that's something we contrive or not. But there, after the seeing of non-duality, it's complete, like it's full. There's not like a need for meaning and purpose. It's sort of beyond that. So, but you that's not to say at some stage or even right away you might want to find something that's purposeful or to say that there's some some people experience other dimensions or whatever, have experience where they come back and they've seen non-duality and they have a sense of a very, very specific purpose, like they've talked to God or whatever in another realm and they've been told this is what you must do when you get back. You must become a teacher, you must tell everybody about your experience, but yeah, generally, I mean, this isn't about purpose. I mean, non-duality isn't about that. So is there a purpose to life? I mean, all those questions are unknowable anyway. I mean, I think that can be seen anyway. Like, so, it doesn't seem, life, that need for that question kind of falls away in a sense, like the ultimate question. I mean, it's enough. So that question comes from a lack. The ultimate question, if that does come from a lack, I'm not to say that there, other people would say otherwise, but because it isn't enough, like those existential questions tend to dissolve in this seeing. So in one sense, but also, like I say, these are the imponderables. These are you know, whatever we were here, the existentialists would come up with, well, we have to find our own meaning and purpose. That was the whole existential thinking, but this puts an end to that even. So, you know, biologically you can talk about that, but it's just a story, you know, like for reproduction and survival, the whole body's set up to that end, isn't it? So, but that's not what you mean, is it? So like, you know.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know how they called in like that, but if you're out there, Jenny, just come in through the Zoom link or type something in the chat, but I don't know what happened just now. You didn't hear her at all, though.
No,
Oh,
nothing.
she's asking me questions, but there's like a ton of noise. I don't know. She's like in a car with other people. It was a whole thing.
No, nothing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I didn't even, it just came right through. Okay, sorry about that. But yeah, if you're out there, just click the Zoom link. I don't know how you called me like that. It's different. Can you say something about relationship when there is no one there?
Want me to answer that?
Sure.
So, well, it depends what way you're asking that. I mean, in a sense, if you're talking, you know, from the position of the absolute, for just to simplify things, although there is no relative and absolute in a sense as well, like, but, you know, so there is no relationship because there's no one here and there's no one there. There's just one thing. I mean, it certainly can have an effect on relationship because of the intimacy and the unlovedness with everything. Certainly it can, you know, I think it makes relationships more easeful because there's more presence there, there's more stillness, there's more space. But of course, that depends on the individual as well, how much, you know, the before and after story is different in every case. So someone's defenses, they may have a lot of ego defenses and they see non-duality and those are blown, but for another person maybe they're not. So there tends to be more, because this involves radical acceptance, there seems to be more a tendency to accept the whole person as they present. So and also you're not, I think if you are in a relationship with someone who is awake, there's the knowing that they're not their personal history, there's no identity with that. So there can be a complete kind of starting again, maybe, like, because that doesn't define you anymore. So those old patterns, some patterns may continue, but they're no longer, you're in a sense, you're no longer defined by that historical drama. It's not, you know, you're not trying to feed that or being fed by it. So there's definitely a change. There'll definitely be a change in relating afterwards, for sure, in a positive way, I would say. But that will change from person to person. But yeah, relationships continue. There is that weird thing. I think my own experience is that, you know, when you're with someone, you're very much with them, probably, you know, more so than before, if you like talk about before and after. But when they're not there, they're really not there. So that can be quite odd as well in a way. So, you know, because more of the energy is just in the moment. So there's an absorption in what's happening. So in a sense, whatever's arising is much more vivid than before, and whatever isn't arising is much less in a sense. So the energy's where you are and not where you're not. So it can seem strange, even, you know, it can feel strange at first because you can get used to like communicating with someone, maybe, I don't know, messaging or something, but there's not that. So there's less fantasy, if you like, maybe, that sort of fantasy connection. It seems to be more real. That's how I experience it, but you get used to it because, you know, it's not to say you can't be in a relationship and that be a reality for you. Yeah, of course it can, but it's just whatever's appearing is where your energy is. So your mind, you're not living through the mind, because, and anyway, relationships that are lived through the mind tend to be more problematic. Like the most unhealthy people, it tends to be all fantasy and no reality. So in a way, it's kind of the reverse of that. It's much more based on what is. Something like that. I don't know. What do you think, Walter?
Oh, sorry, I just got all disorientated. You know what I think it was that called me on FaceTime, and it
Right.
put it. So I was actually doing two things at once, and I didn't realize it. I thought they were in the Zoom. That's why I couldn't find them.
Okay.
I probably sounded like a lunatic because it was like very loud.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and now I understand what happened. They probably didn't even know, because they were like, "This is really weird." They probably didn't know I was like on the air, so to speak. Okay, well, what do I say about, can I say something about relationships when there is no one there? Yeah, I mean, it's like anything. There seems to be a relationship. There seems to be two separate individuals interacting, being in a relationship. I had an interesting experience once. This became really vivid, that there was no one here and there was no one there, that there were just words coming out here, there were words coming out there, and there was no choice. It was just this conversation happening, and there was no independent, autonomous individual in either body. It was just programming and conditioning, just my programming, their programming. Of course, it's not my programming. It's not their programming. It's just two parent people reacting and responding with no choice in the matter. So there aren't two separate people with free will and choice. There's just words coming out, a response to these words. And it was just very apparent that that's what's happening. That's what's happening now. I don't think anyone typing these questions has a choice. I think it's just coming out of their own unique programming, so to speak. So relationship is an illusion. Some people talk about the, this evolution of consciousness and things like that, which I don't get into, but, it's a human condition, feelings and emotions and interactions, and something gets triggered and I respond. Maybe I laugh, maybe I get upset. I don't own that. It's just like animals responding in the way they do, and humans responding in the way they do. It's just in other words, there's no ownership of any kind of response or interaction. It's just what's happening. So the next question is, people seem to try to use or apply as a method or a means to operate in the world. Is this possible or recommended? Talking about non-duality, people seem to use non-duality to try to use or apply it as a method to operate in the world. Do you think that could be useful or recommended?
Definitely not recommended, definitely to be avoided. Yeah, because it's misleading anyway, but to try to emulate that or imitate that is disastrous, really, because it's not like what anybody is saying. It really isn't. And also, it's talking about a shift. So you try to act as if you're not your story. You try to act as though there's no one there. you start to, it's not about minimizing your experience. It's not that what happened doesn't matter. It's not that, you know, okay, you can say in ultimate sense, there's no relationship and no ownership of that. But, you know, like if someone doesn't own what they've just done, they're probably not the nicest person in the world. And maybe you've got a narcissist on your hand, you know, like if you can't have a conversation with somebody and somebody owning their experience, like what's just happened, you know, like in a relative sense. So it's so easy to confuse those two aspects to existence, even though there isn't two aspects, but it just makes sense to talk like that, especially in view of a question like that, because, you know, if there's no will, no agency, there's a sense of futility can creep in with that. There really is, like, and so there's nothing I can do to change anything. Any time attempt to sort of imitate that or assimilate that message seems to end up creating a kind of stasis, which is really unhealthy. And people do get stuck. They do get stuck, and then they start, you know, just watching the videos. Nothing else matters. I shouldn't, why bother dating because there's no relationship, you know, all this kind of stuff. It's life negating this. This isn't a, you know, this is about embracing life. This is about life more abundant in a sense. And it's about entering deeply into life. And, you know, I'm not, because there's nothing to run away from. So the feelings aren't run away from in the same way. Pain isn't run away from in the same way. It's, you know, there's that acceptance. There's everything's okay. Even when it's not okay, it's okay. It's that. And, you know, it's impossible to convey that. So yeah, it's not, this is not, non-duality and psychology are incredibly different, like, and they can run into each other in the mind, like, and create all kinds of havoc, just like any other spiritual teaching. It can create, you know, spiritual bypass that I'm sure most of you have heard of, you know, like, so it's heard, when it's heard by the mind, it's heard psychologically, and it's not, this is nothing to do with that. And life goes on in spite of what's being said here. Life goes on normal at the same time. And that seems like a contradiction, but, and it is in language, it is, but it's not, it's just one thing. It's not neither the absolute nor the relative. It is just one thing. But to speak about it, you need to speak in a certain way, like to sort of get across the complexity of it and the paradox of it. And, you know, but yeah, so nothing can be brought, you know, done to bring you closer to this, because it's not a thing, because it's not in language, because it isn't psychology, it's not psychological, it's not a process, it's the end of all that. It's the complete collapse of that, because that's old time based thinking. That's not this. So yes, don't do that. That's like, don't try that at home kind of stuff. Like, but you're saying that it's compulsive. There's something compulsive about, we imitate what we admire, and this resonates with you. You know, it gets in, it just gets in, just like saying, don't think about meditation or where it gets you, just meditate. If you're going to meditate, just sit and just focus on your thoughts or your breathing or whatever it is you're doing, what kind of meditation. But people will, you know, it's natural for us to look for a change, to look, you know, to see things as a process. It's impossible for us to just do that unless the self collapses, in which case everything is a state of meditation, which does not negate meditating. You can meditate while being in a meditative state. Like, it's, again, it's paradoxical. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it's not something you can use just because when I'm describing non-duality anyway, it's already everything. So it's in the attempt to apply it, it's in not applying it. It has nothing to do with application. I believe there are some things that are talked about that could be helpful to understand that this is the human condition being expressed, that in terms of blame and guilt and shame and things like that, that there is no, I didn't create any of these things. But as Don points out, it's not an excuse to behave in, irresponsibly or treat people poorly. But it can help, I think, to notice that these things just arise. I think it's obvious too to see that these aren't my thoughts. I'm not the thinker of thoughts. I'm not the feeler of feelings. It's just what's happening. There's no one here doing that. That's non-duality. But there are other things I think that could be helpful to a person in their life, but non-duality, not really one of them. It's descriptive, not prescriptive. So, yeah, I think to use it in a way that would excuse bad behaviors, to misuse the understanding and not to understand it at all. Not that this is even about understanding. But the next question is, hello, do you both accept the differing types of non-duality? What types? Well, I don't know what that means, types, but I know there's, say, types to focus on awareness or consciousness. Course in Miracles is a type of non-duality. But for me, in the end, all these teachings will negate themselves. It's like the saying about a thorn, to remove another thorn, and then you throw all the thorns away. So I see the types as that thorn. And then you can just toss them all away and not be attached to radical non-duality or whatever the other kinds of are called. I don't even know. But yeah, so do I accept them? Sure. I see them all as trying to point to this one no thing, and some people want to give it a name like awareness. But I'm not attached to the name. So yeah, I can accept them all. I don't have a problem with any of it. Anyway, what do you think? Different types of non-duality.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's all right to name the big names like Eckhart Tolle and whatever. I mean, yes, I mean, totally, his message resonated with me in his book, the first couple of pages where he described his experience. But yeah, it's what comes with that, like you say, falls away, like a practice around stopping thought or putting your attention in the pause between thoughts, all like it's all those practices and everything else that goes with it, all the sort of theory, whatever, that all falls away when this is seen. It's like seen for what it is, maybe self-inquiry, all those things. Some people get something out of it, but ultimately it's seen that there's no one who could bring this shift about, like, it's seen it. So that kind of, it comes back to just the basic message of there's no one, there never was anyone, and there's nothing happening, and yet there's all this. And it's really quite simple, but you can't write a book around, well, people do actually, they just paraphrase, endlessly paraphrase, but yeah, it's at the heart of a lot of teachings. It's there in the religious teachings too, although it's hard to extract from everything that surrounds it. So yeah, for sure. All
right. And if anyone in the Zoom wants to ask a question, just go right ahead and jump in. Otherwise, I'll keep going with these. Next question. Does non-duality undercut all psychology? That's a good one for you.
I just think they get mixed up, really. Like, this is beyond the psychological. Non-duality is beyond that. It's the end of the psychological self. But yeah, in the minds of people who try to understand this, it can get confused. So, and it can alter the psychology of, you know, when someone wakes up, this will alter the psychology to some extent. It won't if there's like in real pathological conditions. It may not do. It probably won't where there's like narcissistic injury or something like that. So, but yeah, I mean, so this is beyond the mind. It's beyond psychology. It's seeing that there's no one. It's, you know, but it's when you try to understand it, you're using the mind to understand something that's beyond the mind. So it just can't be done. It's just it's an impossibility. But psychology is important because even though there's a change, you know, before and after story, patterns can continue. So it doesn't teach you how to live. Non-duality, the saying of this doesn't teach you how to live. It certainly doesn't. So you can end up stuck just as you were before, but maybe not caring about that so much, maybe not suffering so much because of it, and maybe just not even seeing it less, you know, like, because suffering, pain, those emotions, if we're not actually assessing anger, we don't even know if our boundaries are being trespassed. We don't know that something's not okay unless we feel that it's not okay. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily give us access to all our emotions. So for some people afterwards, they need to kind of contact that or get a sense of right and wrong, get a sense of, you know, what they feel as well. So, you know, so it's relevant as well. I mean, I think, what do you think?
Well, yeah, they said, yeah, therapy can help the individual. Well, it's, again, therapy is like anything else. It's, I don't think non-duality negates the need for anything, including therapy, or eating, drinking, or anything. It's just non-duality is therapy. It's everything. And or you could use the dream, like, you know, it's a dream character going to therapy in the dream, whatever. It's just what's happening. And yeah, on a relative level, which is where the person lives, it can help. It can help change your perspective. It can help clarify things, help you see things more clearly in your life. And I'm a big proponent of therapy myself. I don't see, you know, non-duality helped me in certain ways, I guess you could say, because the seeking energy fell away, that thinking that there was some bigger, higher, grandiose state that I could arrive at. And there was nowhere to arrive, but there was just a seeing that it's all process for the person. There's no levels, there's no steps, there's no plateaus. It's just all process. Apparently, I'll throw that in there for my radical non-duality listeners. It's an apparent process, but that's the human condition. The human condition is really not to arrive at any place. You know, it's like one of my favorite things from Alan Watts is about the dance. Just to dance the dance for the sake of dancing the dance, but not to arrive at any place on the floor at the end I feel like, oh, I completed the dance, it's, or like Zazen meditation. It's just staring at a wall for 20 minutes. There's no objective. There's no idea of I'm going to get something out of this. It's just a presence with what is. And what is seems to always change.
And staring at walls is very nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Staring at walls is really nice. It depends on the wall, but like
It can be.
it can be pretty big.
I think Andy had his hand raised. If you want to jump in, Andy, go right ahead.
Yeah, hi. So if you're a seeker and you're seeking enlightenment and you arrive at it, what's the return journey?
A return journey?
Yeah, I mean, if you're seeking anything in life, you're seeking anything, and then you find it, you find what you're seeking, what next?
What next?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what it would be like to arrive at enlightenment.
Is that I mean, do you think enlightenment is different to non-dual realization then?
Yeah, because it's to repeat things, but it's seen that this is the way it always was, that there was never anyone here to get anything. And like I said, it's just all this apparent play of life playing itself out, but there's no meaning or purpose into it. So there was no attainment. The attainment was an absence of, if anything, of this need to find some mysterious place called enlightenment. It was a seeing through of all that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's no sense of satisfaction or accomplishment or anything. But still, what next? I mean, do you then have to bring that awareness back somehow and bring it back down to earth, if that's the right term?
Well, there was nobody to do that. So there was just a continuation of life as it was, but without this seeking, without this sense of separation, without all of that. And yes, I mean, it can sound like an attainment, I guess, because I was like, wow, it was a mind-blowing thing. And there was a seeing that this is what people have been talking about or pointing at, or, this is what I've been reading about. There was a recognition of that, but there's nothing to do with that. I didn't then take that and, I don't know, do something with it, or my life as it appeared wasn't changed in any way. But there was a lightness. Because of that, I'd say the seeking energy had gone. That desperation to find something that never existed. That urge to continually prop up this thing that wasn't real.
But you as a human being, you have hopes, desires, plans, or is all that irrelevant?
No, all that stayed. Yeah. There's still the same body, mind, organism, if you will, same, a lot of that same stuff stayed. But things did fall away. I mean, that's why it's tricky to talk about, because obviously I wasn't going after something anymore after that. I wasn't searching anymore. I didn't, there was a lot of lack or feeling less than, or these things kind of fell away as well. And yeah, so Probably does sound like an attainment, I guess.
I'm just wondering if that's then different. If somebody's not a seeker, but they have like a spontaneous awakening, how do those things differ, if at all?
You want to take that, Don?
Well, it's always, I mean, spontaneous. What do you mean differ? Like spontaneous awakening? I mean, it's.
Well, it seems like you know, if something happens spontaneously, if you're not seeking something but it happens, is that a different experience to somebody who was seeking that?
Well, you may not know what's happened, I suppose. That's the only difference, but the same experience, you know, if you haven't been seeking and this happens all at once, which was experienced here, you may not know what's happened. It may be easier to talk about in one sense because it's the before and after story is quite clear cut because you know, the shift in perspective is absolute. It isn't a sliding into the switch, because it can seem to happen over time. It can seem to happen as a process, like for some people, or there can be glimpses or some idea. So, but it makes no difference overall to what goes after. I mean, why would it, in a sense, you know, like, so, you know, I think it'll be different depths to it as well, like as well, the awakening, although a lot of people would dispute that. I mean, once it's seen, but for some it might be just absolutely no thought. It might be just, you know, seeing the aliveness and everything. So plans, hopes, desires, everything can be completely gone in that, like probably not forever, like, but for a long time. And I think a lot of people get that as well, like a honeymoon period where none of that stuff is just relevant, like it's just so gone, like it, because there's nothing, because it's so fulfillment in the moment is just there and it's so complete, I guess. That probably doesn't answer your question, does it?
Well, it's different because I mean the question to answer the question to Walter was that once you attain what you've been seeking, what next? But that doesn't apply in a spontaneous case because you weren't seeking in the first place. So there is no what next question.
Yeah, but the seeking is there anyway. Like it's unconscious, like everything. You know, you could say, and a lot of people do say that, you know, you go shopping, you're seeking whatever it is, love, all these things to create that sense of ease, that sense of peace. Maybe you go to therapy for that. Maybe you have a relationship and you're hoping for that. And maybe just for a moment, there's this cessation of desire, cessation of that sense of lack isn't there just for a moment, but then you come back to, you know, obviously like falling in love, you rub up against each other eventually, so you come back to reality, and so nothing fulfills that. So even if you haven't been seeking, I wasn't seeking, the collapse of this, it's, you know, you may not put it in that, you know, I wouldn't talk about I was an actual seeker, so I wasn't, but you know, it's the same thing. It's absolute fulfillment. So there isn't this. So in my case, maybe intrigue, desires like that fell away because there's no need to distract myself from what is, because it's so beautiful. Right here, right now is so beautiful. There's no need to run away from it into whatever it is, alcohol, shopping, relationships, food, or whatever your go-to thing is. Like it's just all here and it's beautiful and it's the stillness is seen, and so it's just coming home. You know, the thing that you were seeking through the alcohol, if alcohol is your problem, it's that stillness, it's that absence of self, which can kind of be sensed, can't it, like in moments, like in holidays, beautiful sunsets or something, where the mind stops for a minute and there's just that wow, just that, like, isn't it beautiful? And maybe the mind stops for a split second. So it's the same collapse. You can see that your whole life's been a striving to fill something from the externals. Achievement, I didn't do very well with that, like achievement, relationships, possessions, all that stuff, and it doesn't cut it and never cuts it. So it's seen that that's what was being sought. Ultimately, it's the only thing that kind of brings up fulfillment, you know. But, you know.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Andy. All right, next question. Yeah, and I just say one more thing about that is that the reason why there's no enlightenment, awakening, liberation, any of that, because what's seen is that there is nobody to become enlightened, and it was always just this, whatever's appearing, arising from no thing, falling back into no thing. And even that is to conceptualize and, you know, try to explain this. So that doesn't do it justice. But you'll hear a lot of people say the character, because there's no separate individual entity. But there is this apparent character in this apparent dream. So maybe in the dream, there's a lightness. Maybe in the dream, things seem to have changed, but they could, same with therapy. A character in a dream can go to a therapist and have a different perspective and maybe feel a little bit lighter about things. So there's nothing special about non-dual realization. It's all just what's appearing from no thing. It, you know, and so there is no attainment because there's no separation. There's no separate individual attaining anything. And it's already whole, complete, and perfect and can't be improved upon. It can only be seemingly improved upon in the dream of a separate individual whose life is all of a sudden better because he knows or she knows there's no separation. But that's also in the dream of separation. So enlightenment is another story. I saw another hand raise. Sorry, I forget the name. Go for it. Rakesh.
Hey,
Hello.
I
hey, how's it going?
Good. Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you both. I joined a bit late, so forgive me if I ask something that someone else has asked or make you repeat yourself. Yeah, I guess it's kind of more aimed at Walter, but maybe Dawn, you can give your 2 cents as well. But I lately have stumbled across A Course in Miracles, and it really seems to be resonating. And I saw your talk a few days ago with a lady, I can't remember her name, but I think she was South American or something. But anyway, but yeah, it's really resonating, and I was curious more about your experience with it, Walter. Like, how did you come across it, and when in your apparent journey did you come across it?
Oh, when did I come across it? Well, luckily I had a friend, my friend Stephen Wingate was helping me with it because it's a challenging book to read for sure. At least it was for me. And to be honest, I never finished the lessons. I never read the entire text. I just couldn't do it. But I absorbed a lot of it through doing the lessons that I did do and reading what I did read. And also I checked out Ken Wapnick. I don't know if you're familiar with that name. He passed away not that long ago, but he's a great teacher of the course. And I got a lot from listening to his explanation of it. Also, I'm going to be interviewing David Hoffmeister soon, who's also another great teacher of Course in Miracles. But yeah, I was in it for a couple years trying to, understand it and everything else. But that was prior to any kind of shift. But now it seems like the things that I read or whatever, they just kind of come out of me sometimes, like the things I remember, and they seem to fit perfectly. Like I give everything all the meaning it has. If all those first lessons, nothing in this room means anything. This table is meaningless. This is me. Everything's meaningless. All these thoughts are meaningless. Everything on the street's meaningless. All this thing about meaning and purpose, and seeing that it's all comes from mind. And there's a lot about projection in there. Projection makes perception. So, what I believe about the world was projected out there and then reflected back to me. And I thought that was, somebody asked about, can it be applied or I thought a lot of those lessons might have helped me sort of in my daily life and kind of understanding things a little bit better from that perspective. So yeah, I found it helpful on a relative level. And now I just think it's just another way to share this message with different language. A lot of Christian language talking about Holy Spirit and obviously Jesus and everything. So it's just another thorn to be thrown away eventually. But that's my experience with it. I can't lie and say I, did all the lessons. I don't know how far I got, but those first ones really show you, about meaning and purpose and where it comes from and how that's created. And basically, I think some of the most powerful things are seeing that I made it all up, that I am the source of love. Like someone's asking about relationship, if I'm in a relationship and I'm feeling love, that love's coming from here. It's not coming from there. It's being projected out there and being reflected back. And I think that's my source of love out there, and then you give this all the meaning and importance and love and significance, but it's coming from in here, and that's amazing to see that. But anyway, that's a few things about the course. I don't know. Is that good? Good enough?
Yeah,
But I would say tune into David Hoffmeister and come to the Zoom because he's really a teacher of Course in Miracles.
Rakesh,
Okay.
why is it resonating with you? Like, I'm curious what that is, because obviously you've already seen, you've seen non-duality and everything. Like, what is it with you now? Like,
I'm not too sure. It feels like I did stumble across it a while ago, but it kind of just didn't make any sense to me. And yeah, a friend of mine sent me a video of someone and he was speaking in this way, and then I don't know, it's like something just clicked, something made sense, and now it's like it seems just really powerful. And it's just maybe I just wasn't ready to hear it before, and now I kind of just, I don't know, it feels like it's unlocked some translator or something. Yeah.
is there anything like energetic as well when you're reading it? Like,
A little bit, yeah. I think it's probably more energetic than anything else. I'm not actually reading the book. I'm just dipping into other people reading the book because I'm sound orientated. I like listening. There are some things that make more sense intellectually, but yeah, a lot of it does feel energetic, especially before bed. Just putting it on before bed just feeling a lot of joy
Uh-huh.
welling up, and it seems to be seeping into my day-to-day, that joy. But it's only been a couple of weeks since I've been exploring it, so I don't know if that will continue, but yeah, it's just I find another thing I thought, I don't know if this is what it is, but because I've grown up with a Hindu like upbringing, like it's that kind of religious way of communicating has been around me my whole life, but I never really understood it. It was always in like Hindi or like very thick Gujarati or Sanskrit, so I just didn't really understand what they were saying. So maybe that element of it is what's speaking to me, because it's like it's kind of, it's not religious, but it has that kind of terminology, yet it's speaking a language I can understand. So I don't know.
Wow. So the energetic effect, does it infiltrate your dreams or anything else, or like?
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
Are they very spiritual dream? Like, is anything you'd share or not? Like,
they're quite, I mean, I have crazy dreams anyway. But yeah, there's been a couple of particularly memorable dreams. One of them was I was in the desert and I met some people on some camels, and they gave me it sounds like such a cult. They gave me a sip of some juice. And I drank the juice, and the juice seemed to like, it was like I don't know, it's like some downloading some kind of knowledge, and the knowledge just stayed. And then like a couple of other weird things like that. And then also a couple of nights ago as well, just yeah, I'd be talking for a while if I went through everything, but the only other one that I can summarize is it just was experiencing dreams in a different way than usual.
right.
It felt more like very still imagery, just almost like looking at files on a computer. It was just like information, but I don't know what the information was. And it was just like, here's a file, and then closing it, and here's a file and closing it. And that's the best I can describe it. I don't know what was going on, but it didn't feel like any other way of dreaming that I've ever dreamt before.
So you weren't in the dream, you were kind of observing this
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I
no
wasn't
story
really,
to it, just a revelation of whatever the hell it was, like.
yeah, it just felt like information, and it felt, I could feel in my body, but I was also just the best I could describe it is like opening files on a computer.
Are those dreams any more real than your normal dreams, do you think? Or just to see them kind of, or more vivid in any way, or just like the same? Just curious.
They felt a bit, they felt very different to my usual dreams. The one I just described felt very different. It felt like quite I felt less involved. I just felt less like you said, just kind of observing it. I didn't even feel fully asleep, really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Does that have any? I was wondering why did you?
Well, I've had similar in the dreams where nothing's happening, just watching, but not like a download, but like just watching, like, I don't know, like a starry sky shooting stars or something, or water falling, and nothing else, just that, or light coming through curtains, but no story. But it feels just so blissful and beautiful. Not download stuff exactly, but maybe I could relate a little bit to, in some ways, well, maybe one or two, not quite like that, but I've maybe slight versions of that, like, but I think, like, because I know you've got the Kundalini stuff as well, don't you? And the dreams that kind of involve that kind of energy are different, aren't they? Like,
Mhm.
you know, they're more colorful and more exciting, and the energy's definitely different anyway. But
Yeah.
get the Course in Miracles out. I never did it.
No. Did you ever have a look at it? Just
I did. I mean, I was before Awakening, and I remember going to Waterstones in Piccadilly, which is a massive one, and I went up to the desk and I said, I'm looking for the Course in Miracles, and whoever's behind the desk got very excited, and then someone came over and said, oh, I know where it is, and so I followed them, and then someone else went, what, I hear Course in Miracles, and they got it off the shelf, and I just sort of thought, this is so, all this synchronicity, and of course I got it back, and I got to like lesson 2, and I was just like, no, it was just too, it just seemed to, I couldn't get my head around it. Like I've still got it, but I haven't done anything with it. But yeah, I know it resonates with some people, and then some people I heard someone say that some people get very obsessive about it, because when they get year after year, because it's 365 lessons, aren't there? 365 days, so get caught. But I guess some of these things just really hit with some people, don't they? Like, so I didn't, but I'm not, anyway, still got it though.
yeah. Yeah, it does seem to have ramped up synchronicities, like even just looking into it, and then within a couple of days, Walter, you were talking about it on your channel, and
That was Shirley Kanowski.
That's right. Yeah. And just I was just like, oh, here I am looking into it, and it's just coming up on random channels that I follow, and yeah,
It resonates so much more now because, like, the forgiveness, it's radical forgiveness, forgive them for what they did not do, and seeing that no one ever did anything and nothing ever happened. And it talks about no hierarchy and illusions, which I think is an amazing way to say this. That, same with the dream analogy. If it's all a dream, then one part of the dream is not better than another part of the dream. Or if it's all an illusion, one illusion can't be higher than another illusion, because it's all an illusion. So it's kind of like Advaita Vedanta wrapped in Christian terminology, but I see it as the same message. And if you can get through all of it and see in the end that, yeah, we never left heaven, none of this ever happened, there really is no decision maker, even though it talks about choosing the Holy Spirit and things like that. But I think that's, for the individual on the path to take a look at some of these things. That, it's just a different perspective from a world of guilt, shame, and blame to complete forgiveness for never having done anything.
yeah.
Or,
Yeah,
it says, I'm not a body, I am free, or I am as God created me, or something like that. So, see, yeah, I'm not this limited little self that I always thought I was.
yeah, it's nice. There seems to be an element of joy about it when I even like hearing other people talk about it, like now, it just seems to be like this layer of pleasantness. I don't know.
It's powerful teaching. But yeah, it was a part of my seeking journey, and I just couldn't complete it. But I feel like it means more to me now,
Yeah.
because I think those words, I like the way it's expressed. So I borrow from whatever I came across, in my seeking, just kind of stuck in my head, and it just comes out. But it's not something I study or
Nice. Thanks. Nice to see you both.
Nice to see you too.
That's-
Yeah,
We
hopefully
get-
see you in person soon.
that would be cool.
Yeah,
Thank you, Rakesh.
no worries.
We got some questions in the chat. Any advice for those in their 20s going through awakening and its after effects? Identity keeps crumbling while the opposite is happening for peers, specifically around areas such as relationships and work. Dawn, can you take that one first, please?
I don't know. I mean, I guess the difficulties, it's going to be more difficult in some ways because of motivation collapsing at a time when in your 20s, you're like trying to kind of test your ego out, see how strong you are, see what you can do and achieve, experimenting. And so that might fall away. So it could be more difficult. You might, I don't know, you could end up estranged a little bit from your peer group. And I don't know. Yeah, it probably helps to chat to someone, maybe a speaker or something about that. Yeah, I guess it's becoming more common because, so yeah, it's not easy. It might be quite scary as well if you don't get on with things as well, because yeah, I mean, almost, and I guess you there's probably very few people who do understand you. I know this is becoming more common, and I don't know where you go with that. It's difficult because, you know, you tell your parents that's not going to be great, is it? And you might be at uni. Yeah, it can be a lonely one. I think that could be very isolating and confusing, maybe. I don't know. What about you, Walter? What do you think?
Identity crumbling in your 20s. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that.
Well, the identity is really strong in your 20s, isn't it? It's, you know, it kind of, yeah, I mean, it's all about ego, isn't it? And so yeah, it can be, that's got to be tough, that, I think. You know, I don't know, but maybe nice. But
Yeah, sorry. It didn't, you know, identity. I didn't go through an identity crumbling, you know, it was just there full on and then it wasn't. But I didn't have sort of a process of crumbling, or I think there was somebody here last week I felt was going through that. And he's in it, I would assume his 50s anyway. So it's not any less painful, whatever age you are. There's maybe a lot more at stake when you're younger. But yeah, it was just full on and then full on not, you know, whatever. The opposite of that is, so I didn't sort of have this slow crumbling, or so I have a hard time relating to that. So I can't answer. That's why I feel like I can't answer it.
I think it was
Didn't
really. I'm sorry.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
Like, because the identity I had was terrible. It was kind of like, but yeah, it didn't crumble. It just fell away, and it's like, oh, thank God, I don't have to live like that anymore. Like, that was gone. Like, what a relief. But yeah, there wasn't some consequences. I don't know if I'd been in my 20s. Well, probably been a relief as well, because my identity was shit then too, but different, very, very different. But yeah. I don't know,
Alright.
find a speaker you resonate with, chat to them. I mean, I just talk to someone who gets where you're at, you know. It would probably help, I would have thought.
Does the shadow side of a human being using Carl Jung's terms, have a place in non-duality?
Well, only in terms of like, so radical acceptance is all of it, like, the dark, I think in a sense, a lot of the sort of moral judgments fall away in seeing in this. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but because everything's accepted, right? It doesn't mean to say it's light from the individual. You talk about the relative and absolute, so you know that someone's not that if they present as evil, or when something dark in yourself arises, say a thought you don't like it, there's much more acceptance of it. Oh wow, so that's what's going on in my mind, or that's what I feel. And there's much more acceptance of that as well in parts of the story that may have seemed unacceptable. A lot of judgment can fall away from that. So in a sense, yes, it doesn't mean integrating the shadow, which is something else. I think integrating the shadow, not acting it out, which would be, so you join the dots up and on your history of like why patterns repeat and what it is you're doing to create that or whatever, and you're kind of not acting it out as in living it, as in speaking angry. You start to see more and more of what's in you rather than projecting it out there. So you see the envy in yourself rather than out there. You see the jealousy, you see the hate, the anger, I think there definitely is more of that, and there's more comfort because it's okay. So what if anger arises? So what if hate arises? So because it's natural, it's what we are. We have all those feelings, we just do, and there's a reason for them. They're information for us, and so yes, but it's not the whole. Non-duality does not mean that you've integrated your shadow material. Like if you're narcissistic, everything is shadow anyway, because there never was a self to begin with in terms of an egoic self that never existed. So everything is projected out. That cannot be assimilated. I don't think it can. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't speak for, I don't know. Well, don't know. I don't see how that could be assimilated because there's, because there's been a lot of damage there, but I don't know. I don't want to say never, and I'm not a clinical psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, so yeah, but definitely makes things easier. There's more acceptance, there's less morality in the common kind of judgments, because you just see how a story is lived. Nobody was doing that. This is how it played out, and it's okay. My story's okay. Your story's okay. I may not like you though, and stay away. Or I might like you, but it's you're not that, and they're not that. So it can help with that for sure. It can help, but it's not the end. Like shadow work's never really complete in a way. Not that it's work, but it's just about seeing more and more, isn't it? Seeing what's going on internally and looking at your reactions to things and exploring that, because sometimes it's about you and sometimes it's actually not about you. So you've got to be careful there too, that you don't see it all as projection. But a lot of people just go through lives projecting everything. It's, it's not taking no responsibility for stuff. So yeah.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the meeting. I'll just give a few plugs for upcoming events on this channel. Obviously, not just this is every Monday, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. And then I also have next Monday, May 1st, 7 p.m. Eastern, Roger Castillo. Following Monday, May 8th at 10 a.m. Eastern, Chuck Hillig. And then we got Monday, May 15th, Howard Chance, followed by Monday, May 22nd with David Hoffmeister at 9 a.m. Eastern. And if you're a Course in Miracles fan, then I would suggest coming to that 9 a.m. Eastern on Monday, May 22nd. After that, I'm going to take a couple weeks off for vacation, and we'll be back with more non-duality fun for you. And all this is free. but any donations would be appreciated. There is a PayPal. And with that, Don Garland.
Well, yeah, just thanks for coming and enjoyed it, and see you next Monday. Hopefully, some of you.
You want to plug any dates?
Well, my own meeting is in London. The Hampstead one is the second Friday in every month. So the next one's in May. That I don't know whatever the second Friday is, 7 to 9 p.m. So apart from that, I have nothing else to plug. Yeah, it's Friday the 12th of May is the next one. It's 7 p.m. British time.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.